My name is Juliet Lawson, I'm 30 years old, and until a few weeks ago, I believed my life was finally coming together. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, in a tiny but cozy apartment above a flower shop. I'm a graphic designer by day and a compulsive list maker by night. My world has always been small but orderly. Color-coded calendars, meal preps, weekend brunch with my mom, and Sunday walks by the waterfront. And then came Ethan. He changed everything. We met on a blind date, something I swore I'd never agree to until my best friend tricked me into it. He was late, underdressed, and unapologetically funny. By the second date I was hooked. By the sixth, he was leaving a toothbrush at my place. A year later we were engaged. I thought I knew what love was before him. But love, it turns out, is not always the same as truth. And sometimes the people who raise you lie in ways that take decades to unfold. Before I tell you what happened that night, let me ask you something. Have you ever had your whole reality cracked open by a single sentence? A single moment? So, this story might feel too familiar. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to this channel. Not for me, but for you. Because the stories I share here aren't just meant to shock you. They're here to remind you that you're not crazy for asking questions. And you're not alone when the answers hurt more than the silence. It was a Friday night, and we were having dinner with my extended family. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, at a fancy French restaurant uptown. My mom had organized the whole thing in celebration of my recent promotion, and Ethan was supposed to join us, but he'd backed out at the last minute, claiming he was stuck in traffic outside of Atlanta for a client emergency. I believed him. 'Cause I always did. The dinner started out like most family events. Cheerful chaos, wine refills, overlapping conversations about real estate and someone's new dog. I was sandwiched between my cousin Sarah and my mother, trying to keep up with both of their rapid-fire updates about wedding venues and spa retreats. Just as dessert arrived, a creme brulee for me, chamomile tea on the side, my phone buzzed in my lap. I glanced down. One message. From Ethan. They lied to you. Leave now. And blinked. Read it again. They lied to you. Leave now. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. I looked up. My mother was buttering a biscuit. My father was talking about stocks. My aunt was showing off photos of her dog's Halloween costume. Everyone looked normal. Like nothing had just happened. I excused myself quietly. I'll be right back, I said. My voice was too calm. I didn't touch my dessert. I didn't sip my tea. I stood up, walked past the waiter, and out the heavy brass doors into the crisp Charleston night. I walked 2 blocks before calling him. Ethan, I whispered. His voice was immediate, tense. Are you alone? Yes. What's going on? I couldn't say anything before. I didn't want them to see me. See you. I'm in town. I've been here since this morning. What? I thought. Your family told you I was out of town, didn't they? My throat went dry. Yes. I was going to surprise you. I went to your apartment. Your mom was there. She said you were already at the restaurant. That's true. He took a shaky breath. Juliet. I don't know how to say this. But when I was leaving I saw something. I heard them talking. I wasn't supposed to. What did they say? There was a long pause. They've been hiding something from you. For years. And if you go back in there tonight, they'll never let you find out what it is. I stood on the sidewalk gripping my phone, Ethan's words echoing in my ear. They've been hiding something from you. 4 years. Behind me, the restaurant buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses, but out here, it felt like the world had narrowed to the sound of my own heartbeat. What were they talking about? Yes. Ethan hesitated. I could hear him moving. Footsteps on gravel, a car door opening and closing. I only caught part of it. But your mom and dad were arguing in the kitchen, quietly like they didn't want the others to hear. Your mom said something like, "She doesn't need to know. She's happy now. Don't ruin it." I leaned against a street lamp, suddenly dizzy. Ruin what? They said your whole life would unravel if the truth came out. That doesn't make sense. I know. That's why I stayed. I waited around the corner. Then I saw your dad go out to his car. He took a box from the trunk. Moloch. He brought it back inside. A box. Are you sure it was for me? I don't know, Ethan said. But your mom looked terrified. I rubbed my forehead, trying to force the pieces to fit. My parents were stable, predictable, even boring. We had routines, traditions. They never kept secrets. Least, thought they didn't. Juliet, Ethan said gently. I think this has something to do with your childhood. With the years you don't talk about. Froze. Because there were years I didn't talk about. Not because they were traumatic, but because they were empty. Blurry. Unclear. When I was around 10, we moved from Ohio to Charleston. My parents told me it was for a job transfer. Dad got a better position at a firm. Mom wanted to be closer to her sister. I never questioned it. But looking back now, I remember boxes I wasn't allowed to open. A new school mid-year. A birthday party cancelled last minute, with no explanation. I remember feeling like the life before Charleston had been wiped clean. And I let it go. Till now. Ethan met me in a church parking lot downtown. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. He pulled me into a hug and held on tight. I don't want to scare you, he said. But something about tonight didn't feel right. We sat in his car. He pulled out his phone, opened the voice memo app. I recorded part of their conversation. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but when I heard your name, I hit record. He played it. Muffled voices. My mom's. Then my dad's. Mom. We agreed we'd never open that box again. Dad. It's not fair to keep lying to her. Mom. She's our daughter. She's fine. She's engaged. She doesn't need to know about her. Dad. What if someone tells her? What if he tells her? The audio cut out. Her. Yes. I don't know, Ethan said. But I think they're talking about another woman. Someone important. And they think I know who she is. That night I didn't go home. I stayed at Ethan's apartment, lying awake, staring at the ceiling, my brain spinning. What were they hiding? And who was her? I thought about the box. Hidden. Retrieved like a secret they hoped to bury again. It had something to do with me. I knew that now. The next morning I called in sick to work and drove to my parents' house. My mom opened the door in her robe, surprised. Juliet. Are you okay? No, I said. We need to talk. She stepped aside, unsure. Where's Dad? Asked. He's in his office. Good. I need you both. She looked uneasy but nodded. We sat in the living room, awkward, too quiet. My dad came down a minute later, rubbing his eyes, half annoyed. What's going on? I know about the box, I said. That stopped them both. My mom's hand went to her mouth. My dad froze mid-step. What box? She said far too quickly. The one you took out of the trunk last night. The one you've been hiding. I want to see it. No, she said. Juliet, this isn't. Joe. Me. My father stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked upstairs. He came back with a small cedar box. It was old, scratched, with a simple metal latch. No lock, but clearly designed to hold something private. He set it on the coffee table. Looked at my mother. She shook her head. I'm done lying to her, he said quietly. He pushed the box toward me. I opened it slowly. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Old, faded, many black and white. A woman I didn't recognize, standing with a little girl in front of a stone house. The girl looked like me. Same eyes, same crooked smile. There were letters, too. Some signed Catherine. Others signed M. But not in my mother's handwriting. Who is this? Asked, voice breaking. My father sat down heavily. My mother looked away. She's your birth mother, he said. I couldn't feel my hands. They were resting in my lap, fingers curled around the edges of the photos, but they didn't feel real, like they belonged to someone else. Your birth mother. The words rang in my ears like a bell that wouldn't stop. I stared down at the photograph again. The woman had short, dark hair, thick brows, and a strong, elegant posture. She stood behind the child like a protective shadow. Not touching but close. Watchful. The girl looked like me. Exactly like me. I couldn't breathe. "Say that again," I whispered. My father looked me in the eye. "Her name was Catherine Delaney. She was your biological mother." "My mother?" "No, the woman who raised me," shifted in her seat, crossing her arms over her chest like a shield. "We were going to tell you when the time was right." "When?" asked, voice cracking. "When would that have been, exactly?" "At the altar. On my deathbed." "You were 5 when we adopted you," she said, her voice tight. "You had no memory of the transition. You were thriving. We didn't want to uproot that. You lied to me my entire life. You were our daughter," she snapped. "From the moment we brought you home. You still should have told me." Silence. The only sound in the room was the quiet rustle of paper as I picked up one of the letters. It was written in loopy cursive on yellowed stationery. Dated April 1997. "Dear Juliet, I don't know if they'll ever give this to you. I'm writing it anyway because I need to believe you'll read it one day. That you'll know how much I loved you, even if they tried to erase me. They said it was better this way. That I wasn't stable. That you needed more. But I fought for you, baby. I swear I did. I went to court. Begged. I lost. I hope you laugh loud. I hope you run fast. I hope you grow up knowing you're worth every sunrise and every quiet good night. Mom, Catherine." I covered my mouth, trying not to sob. My mother, Catherine, had written me letters. And they had been hidden in a box for decades. "Why?" I asked. "Why did she lose custody?" "She had severe postpartum depression," my dad said quietly. "And a history of instability before that. She was hospitalized twice. The courts determined she wasn't capable of raising you safely." "Did she hurt me?" "No," my mother said immediately. "She never laid a hand on you. But there were moments. Dangerous moments. Once she left you in the bath alone for over an hour. Another time she forgot to pick you up from daycare. The judge ruled it as neglect." "Did she ever try to get me back?" My father nodded. "Until you were 6. Then she stopped coming to the hearings." "Because you won." "Because she gave up," he corrected softly. I spent the rest of that day in silence. I couldn't go back to Ethan's. I didn't want to see anyone. I checked into a cheap hotel off the interstate, turned off my phone, and stared at the ceiling for hours. How do you grieve for a person you don't remember? How do you rage at the people who raised you with love, just not the truth? Nothing made sense anymore. The next day I called Jillian Marsh. She was an investigative journalist Ethan had worked with in the past, and someone I trusted. I told her everything about the text, the box, the photos, the letters. "I want to find her," I said. "You're sure?" "I need to know what happened. I need to know if she's alive. If she remembers me." Jillian got to work immediately. 3 days later she called me. "I found her." I dropped the spoon I was holding. "You what?" "She lives in Savannah, Georgia. Changed her name to Catherine Mears about 20 years ago. No public presence. No social media. But she's there." I couldn't speak. "She works at a small art gallery downtown," Jillian continued. "I called the front desk pretending to be a customer. I heard her voice. It's her." My legs gave out. I sat down on the cold kitchen floor of the hotel room. "Do you want to go see her?" Jillian asked. "I don't know," I whispered. And I didn't. What if she didn't want to see me? What if she was still unstable? What if meeting her tore open something I couldn't put back together? But then I remembered her handwriting. I begged. I lost. And I knew I had to go. 2 days later I drove to Savannah. I stood across the street from the art gallery for almost 20 minutes, watching through the window as a woman, elegant, gray-streaked, tall, moved slowly between displays. Her hair was pinned loosely, her movements precise. She looked nothing like the woman in the photos. But when she turned and smiled at a customer, I saw it. I smiled. And I stepped inside. The bell above the gallery door chimed softly as I stepped inside. The air smelled like cedarwood and something floral, maybe lavender. Soft jazz floated through discreet speakers, and the light from the tall windows painted the wooden floor in long golden strips. I stood just inside the entrance, suddenly unsure of my legs. She hadn't seen me yet. She was rearranging a display of watercolor landscapes, her back half-turned. She wore a cream cardigan, simple silver earrings, and her hair, though streaked with gray, still had the deep chestnut undertones I recognized from the photo. "Catherine. My mother." The word didn't fit. "Not yet." "Can I help you?" she asked without looking up. I opened my mouth, closed it. When she finally turned to face me, her eyes met mine. Warm, intelligent, alert. And then something shifted. Her posture straightened. Her lips parted. I saw her blink twice fast. Like she didn't trust her own eyes. My voice cracked. "I think you knew me once." She didn't say anything. Not right away. Then quietly, "Juliet." I nodded, tears already brimming. She took one step forward. Then another. And then she covered her mouth with both hands and started to cry. We sat in the back office, door closed, 2 mugs of tea between us that neither of us touched. I told her about the message from Ethan. About the photos. Box. The letters. "I read your words," I said, voice shaking. "You said you fought for me." I needed to hear that. I needed to believe it. She was crying softly, tissues clenched in both hands. "I never wanted to let you go," she said. "But I was drowning, Juliet. I was 23. Alone. No support. No help. I had postpartum depression so bad I couldn't tell what day it was. I thought I was a monster. You weren't. I believed them when they said you'd be better off without me. But then, got better. Got help. And when I came back to fight, it was too late. They'd made you forget me. They didn't tell me you existed." She nodded slowly, like that was a pain she'd prepared for. "I wrote you every year. Birthdays. Holidays. I never stopped hoping you'd find me." "I didn't find you," I said. "Ethan did." She smiled, tears still shining. "Then I'll be grateful to him for the rest of my life." We talked for hours. She told me about her second breakdown. Her recovery. The years she spent working quietly at non-profits, learning to live with the silence of missing a daughter she wasn't allowed to contact. She never remarried. Never had more children. She showed me a drawer in her desk filled with cards she never sent. Drawings of little girls. A necklace with my birthstone. "I tried not to think about what you looked like," she said. "But some nights I dreamed your face. And it always looked like this." She reached out then, slowly, carefully, and touched my cheek. "I thought I'd never see you again." Leaving the gallery felt like exiting another world. I stepped back onto the savannah sidewalk with more questions than answers. But also with something new. Something I hadn't expected to find. Compassion. Not just for her but for the woman who raised me too. Because I suddenly saw how messy it all was. The court system. The fear. The silence. The choices made by people who thought they were protecting me, even if they were wrong. I didn't forgive them yet. But I understood them a little more. That night I called my mother, the one who raised me. She picked up immediately. "Juliet." I found her. Silence. Then a single exhale. "She's okay," I said. "She's living a quiet life. She never stopped thinking about me." "I'm glad," she said. Her voice cracked. "I am. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid you'd leave. That I'd lose you." "You almost did," I said. "I know." Ethan came over that night. He didn't say much. Just held me while I cried. When I finally looked up at him, I said, "You saved me from a lifetime of not knowing." He brushed my hair back gently. "I just gave you the truth," he said. "You chose to face it. The wedding is still happening. Not in Charleston, though. We're planning it on the beach in Tybee Island. Quiet, simple, surrounded by only the people who love us openly and honestly." Yes, Catherine will be there. So will the woman who raised me. And though their chairs may be placed on opposite ends of the front row, they'll both be there to watch me walk down the aisle toward the life I chose for myself. A life built on truth. Not perfect, but real. The morning of my wedding, the sky was the color of sea glass. Pale, clear, slightly cool. One of those rare spring days where the air feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for something beautiful to happen. We'd rented a small beach house on Tybee Island, just outside of Savannah. The ceremony would take place at sunset, barefoot in the sand, no more than 30 guests. Close friends, a few of Ethan's family, and the people who had stayed, even when the truth made staying hard. I stood barefoot by the window of the bedroom, staring out at the tide rolling in. My dress hung on the back of the door. Simple. Cream-colored. Nothing extravagant. Felt right. Elegant, honest, unpretentious. Behind me, 2 women sat side by side on the small love seat, hands folded, each of them waiting in her own way. My mothers. Neither had said much that morning. They had met, formally, quietly, the day before. I don't know what they said to each other when I wasn't in the room, and I'm not sure I ever want to. But they had greeted each other with soft eyes, tentative grace, and something between tension and reluctant respect. They both loved me. And for once, that love didn't have to compete. I walked over and knelt in front of them. I want to say something before we do this, I said, glancing from one to the other. To both of you. My birth mother, Catherine, nodded silently. My mom, the one who raised me, took a breath and braced herself. I've spent the last month unraveling what I thought was the truth, I said. And there were days I wanted to scream at both of you. Days I did. They both smiled softly, knowingly. But today, I don't want to carry that anger anymore. I want to thank you. Both of you. I looked at Catherine. For letting me go. Even if it broke your heart. Then to my mom. And for picking me up. Even when it wasn't yours to fix. Tears welled in both their eyes. You both made mistakes. But you both loved me in the best way you knew how. I reached for their hands and placed them in mine. I'm done being angry. I want to start this next chapter without secrets. Catherine nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. That's all I ever hoped for you. I'm proud of you, my mom said. More than you'll ever know. Ethan and I exchanged vows under a golden sky. The tide kissed our ankles as we said, I do. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to edit myself. I didn't need to pretend. Everything had been broken. And then, piece by piece, we had rebuilt it. Not the same. Better. That night, during the reception on the deck, I danced with my dad. The man who raised me. Who kept the truth from me. He didn't try to explain himself. He didn't try to apologize again. Instead, he said, I lost your trust. I know that. But if you'll let me, I'd like to earn back something else. Your presence. Your laughter. Just the chance to know you now. I looked him in the eye. I don't need you to be perfect, I said. Just honest. He nodded. That I can be. As the night wore on, I caught glimpses of Catherine watching me from the sidelines. Quiet, reserved, unsure of her place. So I walked over, took her hand, and led her to the dance floor. Are you sure? She asked. I'm sure, I said. You were there when I came into this world. It only makes sense you're here now. We didn't speak much as we danced. But she rested her head lightly against mine. And for the first time since that day in the gallery, I saw peace in her eyes. I used to think family was defined by blood or paperwork. Now I know the truth. Family is a choice. Sometimes it's made for you. Sometimes you make it for yourself. But always, it's about who shows up when the storm clears. Who stays after the secrets come out. Who loves you not just for who you were, but for who you became despite it all. If you stayed with me through this story, thank you. It wasn't always easy to tell. But I share stories like this because someone out there is sitting with a truth they're too afraid to speak. Or with questions no one ever answered. Or with silence that was never theirs to carry. If that's you, I hope this gave you courage. Subscribe to this channel if you believe stories, real, hard human stories, can be the start of healing. Because maybe, like me, you're not looking for perfection, just honesty, and a place to begin again.